All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're talking about something that's going to take your coding to the next level. Nested statements. Seriously, if you want to write code that's more powerful, more sophisticated, this is it. This is the key. So, let's just get right into it.
So you ever wonder how video games pull off those insane combo moves? You know, you hit button A, then button B, then a joystick move, and bam! You unleash this epic attack. Well, that whole sequence, where one move depends on the last one, that's exactly what we're talking about today.
And really, that's all a nested statement is. It's just a programming structure where you stick one control block, like an if statement or a loop, right inside another one. Think of it as a combo move for your code. An if inside an if, a loop inside another loop. It lets you build these layered instructions to do something way more complex.
Okay, so before we start stringing together those super powerful combos, we got to get the basic moves down first, right? So let's break down the two most fundamental building blocks. First up, move number one, the nested if-else statement. This is your bread and butter for making decisions in layers. You know, where one choice leads you to another, more specific choice. All right, let's take a look at this example for checking grades. So the first thing the code does is check if the score is 50 or more. Simple enough. If it is, then it goes to a second nested check. Is that same score 90 or higher? And only if the answer to that question is yes, does it give you rank A. You see how that works? The rank A check only ever runs if the score has already passed that first test. It's a decision inside a decision.
And this is super useful for anything that needs filtering. I mean, think about shopping online. You click shoes, right? That's the first if. Then you click running shoes. That's the nested if. Then size 10, another nested if. Each choice is just a nested condition that filters the results down further and further.
Okay, ready for the next move? Move number two, nested loops. If you ever have to work with grids, tables, spreadsheets, anything with rows and columns, this is going to be your best friend. Okay, watch the flow here, because this is the key part. The outer loop kicks off, right? It starts on row 1, then it pauses, and the inner loop takes over and has to run its entire course. So it'll print call 1, then call 2. Once the inner loop is totally done, then the outer loop finally moves on to row 2, and the whole thing starts again. It's a really systematic way to hit every single spot in a grid.
And you see this everywhere. Processing pixels in a photo, filling out a spreadsheet, setting up a game board. The movie theater analogy is perfect. Think about it. You go to row A, and then you check every single seat, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you go to row B and check every seat there. That's a nested loop in the real world.
All right, so we've got our basic moves down. Now it's time for the fun part, creating some powerful combos by mixing them together. This is where things start to get really interesting and your code becomes way more dynamic.
Now, this is so important. The order changes everything. If you put an if statement inside a loop, you're basically asking a question over and over again. Like, for every single number from 1 to 10, you're asking, hey, is this one even? But if you flip it and put a loop inside an if statement, you ask the question just one time. And if the condition is true, then you kick off a whole loop, like a countdown that only starts if the match is ready.
And here's that exact game countdown example. Look, the code asks one simple question. Start match is true, and only if the answer is yes does it fire off that 5-second countdown loop. If the answer is no, that loop just sits there and never runs. You've definitely seen this in games like PUBG or Mobile Legends right before a match kicks off.
Okay, we've got the basics, we've got the combos. Now it's time for the ultimate move. This is when we put it all together to tackle some really complex, real-world stuff. I know, this might look a little intimidating at first, but let's just break it down. What we have is a nested loop, right? It's just moving through a simple 3x3 grid. But the magic happens inside that inner loop. See that? We've stuck an if statement in there. So for every single number in that grid, the loop stops and asks a question, is this number even or odd? We're literally making a decision at every single point in the grid.
So where would you actually use this kind of thing in the real world? Well, how about a little feature you probably use every single day? A login system. This is pretty much the textbook example of a nested if. The system does one thing first. It checks the username. If and only if that's correct, does it move on to the second, nested check, the password. It doesn't even bother checking the password if the username is wrong. That kind of layered security is all thanks to nested logic.
Okay, so we've gone through the basic moves, the combos, even an ultimate move from the real world. But why does all this matter? What's the big deal? It's because this is about more than just code. It's about starting to think like a developer. This table here is basically your cheat sheet. It sums it all up perfectly. Think of each of these structures as a different tool in your toolbox. Need to filter things down? Grab a nested if. Working with a grid? That's a job for a nested loop. Need to start a process only when something specific happens? You'll want a loop inside an if. Knowing which tool to pull out for the right job, that's a huge part of what makes a great developer.
At the end of the day, this is what lets you break free from simple, one-track programs. It's how you handle really complex, layered problems in an elegant way. It doesn't matter if you're building a game, crunching data, or designing an app. This is an absolutely crucial skill if you want to do advanced programming.
And that really is the main takeaway. This isn't just memorizing some syntax. It's about a whole new way of thinking. It's about learning how to look at a big, messy problem and break it down into smaller, logical, connected pieces. It's truly the next step to thinking like a real developer.
So, there you have it. You've learned the moves, you know how to build the combos. Now the only question is, what awesome problem are you going to go out and solve with them? Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.